Welcome to I Wrote This News. Today is Wednesday, March 3rd, 2022. We're putting the hub back into your hump day. Here's some news. Story number 1. Pretend cowboy Sam Elliott is upset that other pretend cowboys are not pretending the way he likes it. Western movie star Sam Elliott is no fan of the film The Power of the Dog. Although the Western from director Jane Campion has been a tremendous hit with critics and Netflix subscribers, coming out strong at the Academy Awards with a slew of nominations, Elliott made it clear he wasn't impressed when the topic came up on Marc Maron's WTF podcast. Let's listen in, but be prepared for someone who sounds like an old white straight dude with a bad case of constipation.
The evisceration of the American West. I mean, they made it look like, what are all those dancers, those guys in New York that wear bow ties and not much else? Remember them from back in the day?
Oh, the Chippendales?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what all these fucking cowboys in that movie looked like. They're all running around in chaps and no shirts. There's all these allusions to homosexuality throughout the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Sam, we have news for you. Homosexuality isn't some sort of recent invention or limited to New York, quote, back in the day. Also, that movie isn't a documentary. It's a movie. It's a story. It's art. The stash following Yosemite Sam like Elliott goes on to give us his thoughtful assessment of the film's director, Jane Campion.
She's a brilliant director,
Yeah.
by the way. I love her work,
Right.
previous work.
Sure.
But what the does this woman from down there
Oh, New Zealand.
New Zealand
Right.
know about the American West? And why in the does she shoot this movie in New Zealand and call it Montana?
It's good. This movie.
And say, this is the way it was.
This got you, this movie.
So that rubbed me the wrong way, pal.
All those chaps rubbed you the wrong way. That's called chafing, Sam. Elliott had some special love for actor Benedict Cumberbatch, too.
I mean, Cumberbatch never got out of his chaps. He had two pair of chaps, a woolly pair and a leather pair.
Yeah.
And every time he'd walk in from somewhere, I don't know where, he never was on a horse.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
Yeah.
He'd walk into the house, storm up the stairs, go lay on his bed in his chaps, and play his banjo. And it's like, what the
Sam, take a deep breath and try to relax, and maybe try increasing the fiber in your diet. Although his parents were originally from Texas, Sam Elliott was born in Sacramento, California and grew up there and in Portland, Oregon. He worked in construction while studying acting in Los Angeles. He's never been a cowboy, nor, as far as we can tell, lived in Montana. To be fair, it does sound as though he's still living in the past. Story number 2. Maybe we should take a look at the Yelp reviews instead. Arizona governor, Republican, and guy whose name sounds like a reference to poop, Doug Ducey, knows how to pick them. Ducey noted last week that state GOP Senator Wendy Rogers, a major source of election disinformation who has ties to white nationalists, was preferable to having a Democrat in office. Ducey claimed that he needs a governing majority to move his agenda forward, saying of Rogers, quote, "I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish, and she's still better than her opponent, Felicia French." The following day, Rogers spoke at the America First Political Action Conference in Orlando, Florida. During her speech, Rogers called for the public execution, by hanging, of unspecified traitors. She also claimed that U.S. is, quote, forcibly vaccinating people with a bioweapon. And over the weekend on Twitter, Rogers asserted that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is, quote, a globalist puppet for Soros and the Clintons, and stated that, quote, half of the combat footage of Kiev out there is from a video game. Here's a bit of information about Felicia French, the Democrat who Ducey claimed was a worse alternative than Rogers. She served 32 years in the U.S. Army and Arizona National Guard, working her way up the ranks from private to colonel. She's a registered nurse, Afghan war veteran, a former medical evacuation helicopter pilot, and an educator. She has a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees. March 3rd is the 62nd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar. 303 days remain until the end of the year. Now it's time for On This Date in History. On this date in 1845, Florida is admitted as the 27th U.S. state. On this date in 1849, the territory of Minnesota is created. On this date in 1873, the U.S. Congress enacts the Comstock Law, making it illegal to send any obscene literature and articles of immoral use through the mail. On this date in 1875, the first ever organized indoor game of ice hockey is played in Canada as recorded in the Montreal Gazette. On this date in 1913, thousands of women march in the women's suffrage procession in Washington, D.C. On this date in 1931, the United States adopts the Star-Spangled Banner as its national anthem. On this date in 1938, oil is discovered in Saudi Arabia. On this date in 1969, NASA launches Apollo 9 to test the lunar module. On this date in 2005, adventurer and guy I grew up with Steve Fossett becomes the first person to fly an airplane non-stop around the world solo without refueling. Celebrating birthdays today are film director George Miller, singer-songwriter Jennifer Warnes, historian Ronald Chernow, astronaut Bonnie Dunbar, radio host Ira Glass, athlete Jackie Joyner-Kersee, actor David Faustino, and actress Jessica Biel. Happy birthday to all of them, and if your birthday is today, a very happy birthday to you as well. By the way, if you or someone you know is having a birthday and would like us to announce it on the show, leave us a voice message or send an email. The links are in the show notes. Today's news was brought to us by MovieWeb, WTF with Marc Maron, AZ Central, and the website that will always rub you the right way, Wikipedia. If you have a comment or a question about anything you've heard today, or if you have a suggestion, please send us a note at IWTN, all one word, at thatradioshow.com. That email address one more time is IWTN, all one word, at thatradioshow.com.
One more thing, if this podcast sounds a little funny, that's because it's also an experiment. All of the vocals were generated using AI technology. Hopefully the show will sound different and better as the tech improves and as we improve at using it. I'm Bob Neese, hoping you have an amazing day. We'll get together again soon.